Svayamantarbahirvapya bhasayanakhilam jagat Brahma prakashate vani prataptaya sapindavat. Svayam itself, antaha inwardly, bahihi outwardly, vyapya pervading, bhasayat illuminating, akhilang entire, jagat universe, Brahma Brahman, prakashate shine, vani prataptaya sapindavat, like fire permeating a red-hot iron ball. The Supreme Brahman pervades the entire universe outwardly and inwardly, and shines by itself, like the fire that permeates a red-hot iron ball shines of itself both outwardly and inwardly.
Namaste. So this verse brings out the analogy of the red-hot iron ball, which is mentioned in actually many places in the Vedas and Upanishads. And the idea is that Brahman penetrates the universe, similarly to the fire that penetrates an iron ball. If you go to a smithy shop, which probably few of you have ever been, but I've seen up in the mountains in Himalayas, where things are still done in the old ways, that iron is transported and delivered in the form of balls, about the size of your two fists together. And these balls are then heated in the fire with the bellows, making them red hot. And they glow, they give off light and heat. And if you touch this iron ball to something flammable, it will flame up just like it was exposed or touched by fire. So from this comes the analogy, there are several analogies, that the iron ball acts as fire because it's penetrated by fire. In other words, the material body and mind are actually inert, but because they're penetrated by Brahman, they appear to have consciousness, agency, activity, etc. The energy is coming from Brahman. It's not intrinsic to the body and mind. So here he's saying that the fire that penetrates a red-hot iron ball shines of itself. Now, by nature, an iron ball doesn't shine. Only when it's penetrated by fire. So similarly, by nature, the body and mind are not active. Only when they're penetrated by Brahman. There's an earlier reference to this in the Maitri Upanishad. Now, even as a ball of iron, pervaded, overcome by fire, and hammered by smiths, becomes manifold, assumes different forms. Thus, the elemental self, pervaded, overcome by the inner man, and hammered by the qualities, becomes manifold. Now, this version is actually kind of backwards. It says that the primeval self, Brahman, becomes penetrated by the body and mind and the qualities, and that it appears to assume manifold different forms, Jagrat, the world, with all of its living and non-living things. But actually it's the other way around. Those things are penetrated by Brahman. And because Brahman is the substrate upon which they are projected or overlaid or superimposed, Brahman appears to acquire the qualities of the objects. So you can look at the analogy from either of two ways, from the point of view of Jagrat or from the point of view of Brahman. We prefer to look at it from the Brahman point of view because that's actually the fact. Brahman is never penetrated by anything. It never becomes the object of anything. It is always the subject. But when Brahman is covered by other objects, in other words, when they are superimposed on the substrate of Brahman, Brahman appears to acquire their qualities, even though it's not really so. So let's think of an everyday example. Most people have never been to a blacksmith shop, so they don't really know. It's not really familiar how this is possible. But let's think of a computer. A computer, when it is penetrated or loaded with a program, appears to think and act in different ways. It rearranges the information, it puts up a user interface, and you can interact with it, and so forth. But a computer, all by itself, doesn't do anything. It just sits there and consumes electricity. It's a great space heater, you know? But when the computer is overlaid or penetrated or superimposed by a program written by a human being, it appears to adopt those qualities and display the behaviors that the programmer puts into the algorithm. It's a crude example, but it works. In the same way, Brahman, when other things are superimposed on it, appears to have their qualities. But actually, of course, Brahman never changes. It's never affected by anything. That's what I mean when I say it's never the object. You can never act on Brahman because you are Brahman. So something cannot become the effect of itself. That would be illogical, Captain. But Brahman simply appears to be possessed of qualities and actions because of the objects that we superimpose on it through name and form. So that is our problem. It's not Brahman's problem. But the point is that Brahman pervades everything. Just like heat can pervade an iron ball and give it qualities that it normally doesn't have. So this Brahman, in the superhuman jhanas of the Buddha, the fifth jhana, is infinite space. Now, space is very similar to Brahman in that it doesn't cling to anything. It doesn't have any qualities. It's frictionless. It simply gives room for other things to exist. That's all it does. And it's never affected by anything. When you have, a nova or black hole merger or something like that, involving lots and lots of energy, space is not affected. What to speak of, the activities of ordinary human beings like us? Can't do anything at all to space. So space is infinitely pervasive. It is within everything. Yet, it is untouched by the activities that go on within it. It's very strange, huh? Well, this is transcendental. This is the beginning of transcendence. And the sixth jhana is infinite consciousness. If space pervades everything, then what pervades space? Because space, is a material element. It is not original. It's not transcendental all by itself. But it mimics the behavior of Brahman because it is pervaded by Brahman. Just like the iron ball, when pervaded by heat, appears to adopt the qualities of heat, of fire. So, then what pervades Brahman? Nothing. Nothing can pervade Brahman. Brahman is impenetrable because it is the absolute. It cannot be changed. It cannot be pervaded. It cannot be turned into something else or adopt the qualities of something else. It has no qualities by nature. So all these metaphors and similes help us to understand the nature of Brahman. And when that becomes our manana, reflection, then slowly we can begin to understand the qualities of transcendence in Brahman.
Om Tat Sat, Om Shakti